Hare Krishna. Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Thank you very much for such a warm welcome. We're really deeply touched and we've been looking forward to coming back. Someone, you can turn that. And those of you who may be visiting or here for the first time, we welcome you to this ISKCON temple. This is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, in case you came to the wrong place. So you could stay, because there's food later. And here we deal with the very root of what's important. Or I should say that we concentrate on watering the root of our existence, which is really our soul. The soul animates the body, and we are the soul in a human body. It's not that we have a soul. And the title, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, means that we recognize that there's a supreme soul and that we're a spark of that supreme. That's a special and insider information that not a lot of people know. But it's widely advertised in the Bhagavad Gita. And we do our best to follow the Bhagavad Gita, to read the Bhagavad Gita, and also to distribute it to as many people as possible, because it really does solve problems to have a clear idea about who we are, what our purpose is. And there's a scientific application in that there's a process that one can follow methodically. Of course, ultimately it's a spontaneous process because we're naturally happy. Our nature is that we're happy. This is one of the pieces of good news I can pass on today. The experience of fear and of anxiety is a misunderstanding of who we are and how we're situated in this world. It's we're fearful for no real good reason. So there are a lot of great accomplishments one can make by practicing Krishna consciousness. And so we'll do that today. We've just returned, my wife and I, Nirakula Devi Dasa and I have returned just yesterday, actually, from approximately 2 months. I think it's the longest that Nirakula has ever stayed in India in one stretch. And we were in the either Jagannath Puri or Mayapur or Calcutta. And we didn't go anywhere else that I can remember, except for Japan on the way home for one day. And it's quite nice to be in a spiritual place and surrounded by devotees for quite some time. We did noticed the difference when we left Mayapur and went to Calcutta and then Delhi, and the music changed. And we noticed how much of a difference that makes. And also, we found several people in the Calcutta airport and in Delhi who appreciated the fact that we were aspiring devotees. And the further away we got from those places, the dhams where we were situated, less of a vibration there was, the spiritual vibration that is. And when we landed in San Francisco yesterday, I was appreciating the fact that there is a center here that is putting out that transcendental vibration, and thinking how important it is. If there wasn't one, if we weren't broadcasting's a farming term. It really means to throw seeds widely. If we weren't doing that, then everyone would just be left to their own devices, and there's not enough knowledge or practice that's available without the parampara bringing down the scientific aspect of spiritual practice, to bhakti yoga, that people would be able to survive. It's hard enough as it is. So I'm really thankful to all of you for what you're doing. Keeping the vibration going here, it's a big deal. Meeting devotees from various places around the world, and to continue practicing spiritual life individually requires great determination and effort on a daily basis, and also what to speak of, I should say, to keep it going on a communal basis. That requires some planning and cooperation, and it's really important. So we're at a juncture in the world nowadays where we really do have to take the responsibility to expand the transcendental vibration to help others. This is actually the main spiritual practice that is taken up by those who have insight into the purpose of life for themselves, and that is the next thing that one would do when one is established in that conception and feeling quite satisfied and happy oneself, or even if you're not happy or satisfied, should still distribute it to others. And that's the need of the day, the need of the hour, as they say, all over the world. Would you agree? Yes. Just 1/3 of you. Okay. So I first offer my respectful obeisances to our founder and acharya. The founder, he founded the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and acharya, it's a hyphenated word, founder, acharya. Acharya comes from the word achar, somebody whose behavior, or we'd say nowadays the person is walking their talk. An acharya is somebody who sets the example. What to speak of, sets a program so that other people can follow it. So we have a founder acharya. That's a great fortune also for the Krishna consciousness movement. One of the all-important books, or I should say the all-important book of the Krishna consciousness movement, is called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is mentioned that one should find an acharya to follow. And this is helpful because there are various programs available that one can take up, and that means there are unlimited options in this world for what one can do. But the admonition given in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other such wisdom literatures is that one should find a person who's perfectly following and has codified the process so that we can also take it up. We have access in that way. And so that's what the International Society for Krishna Consciousness movement is. We're following an acharya, and that acharya is seated on this ornate seat called the Vyasasana, which indicates also that this is a movement that's been passed down through many generations, because the namesake for that seat, asana means a seat, and Vyasa is the person who disseminated the knowledge of the Vedas, first and foremost, before anyone else. And therefore, it's called a Vyasasana. And it means that anyone who sits on such a seat is representing Vyasadeva, who's the one who puts the Veda, or the body of knowledge, into compartments, and then works with it to codify it so that it can be passed down to people everywhere. In fact, Vyasa really means, it's a title, it means an editor. So the knowledge is always there, but putting it into order so that people can take advantage of it is very important. As it is, Vyasadeva, thousands of years ago, divided the one Veda into four. One of the parts of the Vedas was a little bit odd, so he made it three parts, the most relevant parts. And then he gave codes that could be followed by great thinkers, and then expanded upon, that summarize everything that's there in what's called the Upanishads, which basically summarize the Vedas. So you get a summary of a summary, and that's called the Vedanta Sutra, which is the summary of the summary. And then the Vedanta Sutra is again expanded upon in what's called the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is an extensive look into the purpose of life, our origin, where the universe comes from, how we can have protection in this world, and how we can attain the supreme destination. There is a supreme destination, and it's not working at Google, because I've been there many times, and people come to me and saying, I'm making a lot of money, and the campus, everything's free laundry. You can't beat that. And he said, I'm still not happy, so what do you have for us? And this is the situation anywhere you look in the world. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, says that if you look anywhere in this world, so this saves us a lot of time, doesn't it? So you look anywhere in this world, you're not going to find what you actually are looking for if you don't look in the right way. You'll find only disappointment ultimately from the way the material world, from your interaction with the material world. So one can take the knowledge from the Srimad Bhagavatam and apply it in one's own life. And there's even a summarized process or a truncated process from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the chanting of God's names. This is a remarkably powerful way in which to make a connection directly with the Supreme. Just by repeating the names of the divine, one is directly in touch. And this teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam, and also the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, which is what this movement's famous for, really, called the Hare Krishna people, or the Hare Krishnas, was propagated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago. He followed exactly all the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, but he showed from his life how to follow, what it looks like when you're perfectly following. And he also taught a simplified process that anyone who would take up such a process could be in alignment with the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that very much included the chanting of Hare Krishna. In fact, when this Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who I just mentioned, he's another incarnation of Krishna who appeared over 500 years ago. And he traveled in various places, especially South India. And there he met a person who was extremely devoted. His name was Kurma. He lived in a place called Kurmakshetra. I guess he was a pretty big person. They named it after him, Kurmakshetra. And when he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was enlivened because, I mean, what happens when God comes to your town and personally shows you how to do something, how to practice spiritual life? So much so that Kurma said, I will come with you. Now, Kurma had responsibilities. He was a leader of a township, and he also had a family. And he said, I'll just give all that up and come with you. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who I'm talking about now, was in the renounced order of life, which meant that he could easily travel from one place to another, not carrying much at all, just a little water pot. And he used to have a stick, but Nityananda broke it. But that's another issue. And traveling light like that, he could go and stay in a place just for a little while and impart his teachings and move to the next place. And Kurma, on the other hand, had lots of responsibilities. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that, stay here. You don't have to come with me. In fact, he ordered him not to come. So this is indicative of the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught. He didn't say that you have to vacate your home. You can stay there, just transform it by the process of Krishna consciousness. And if you take up the practices, then wherever you are, that place will become nicely transformed. And he said you could teach it to others. So he said, take up the responsibility for practicing here in your own home, in your own town. He said you already have influence here, so use that. And teach other people. And he said, by that process, by doing it yourself at home, and also teaching other people how to do it as much as possible, then you'll never be disconnected, he said, from Krishna, which is the goal of yoga. Krishna means our original divine source. And so that's a little generalized the way I'm saying that. Krishna is a person, but he's the supreme person. He's inconceivably powerful. And even though he has a personal form, he's all-pervading. And everything works under his control. And the material manifestation, which is so wonderful that we can look at and marvel at, it all comes from his energies. And they're all going on by his energies. It's all coming from a supreme person. Thank goodness, right? That we can have that information unabashedly presented by great teachers. And so Kurma took that up, and so did many other people. The process of spiritual knowledge is also what's called disseminated. It's passed down through teachers to students, and those students are expected to become teachers themselves. This is called the system of parampara, from one to the next. So those who are studying very carefully can then learn how to practice the techniques passed down from Krishna and from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then they can teach them to others. And they'll take up students themselves in their own townships or wherever they may live. And in that way, people all over the world can take up spiritual life. This is the idea. It's meant to spread over the whole globe. After all, it's one tiny little planet, right? What's the difficulty? Don't you think? Only about 3% think that? No, really. It's supposed to go to all over the whole planet. So this is a great opportunity, and I think, especially from here in Silicon Valley, we have a good base from which to expand the teaching of Bhakti Yoga as passed down to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through disciplic succession, through our founder Acharya, and from those who are already practicing around the world. We can take example of how to apply it even in the modern age at the present time. And we can find our niche and then practice Krishna consciousness in whatever setting we live in. And from there, we can feel the abundance that comes from being in the spiritual flow. When one practices Krishna consciousness, one feels naturally happy because one realizes one's relationship with Krishna. Krishna is within the heart of every living being. I noticed that especially because we're living on the top floor of a building in Mayapur, where we just came from, called the Vaishnava Academy. We're on the roof, actually. And I would describe it as having an aviary type environment. Do you know what I mean by that? It means there's a lot of birds up there. Because we're in the tops of the trees, and there's lots of trees, so the birds live in trees. And they all have their own characteristics. Parrots are quite interesting. You can see a lot of them up there. They are quite ornate, beautiful, strikingly beautiful, and they also are good flyers. Of course, most birds are, but some are more awkward than others. But they're a little more like jet fighters. They can really maneuver quite nicely, and I think they're quite proud of it as well. I noticed that about birds, and I was thinking about how in the 8,400,000 species of life, that's an insider number, comes from the Vedas, pointing out how many species there are. Each one is a kind of a body given to the soul that's eternal. The body's not eternal, through which the soul can try to enjoy some little part of the material world. And birds especially are quite proud, I'm a little sorry to say, of their abilities, because I watch them a lot. And they kind of look at me as they're flying by so fast and goes, "You can't do this." And it's quite amazing what they do. In any case, there's lots of different kinds of birds up there, and they all talk to one another at one time of the day or another, sometimes early in the morning, late at night. So it's there's a cacophony of bird noises up there. Why did I bring that up? I really got distracted. Yeah, so Krishna is in the heart of every living being. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridya sharajuna tishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantra rudrani maya. This is a very helpful verse. A yantra, everyone say yantra, means a machine. So most of us got here in some kind of machine, and the body itself is a machine. And every single material body that we see that the soul is inhabiting anywhere is a kind of machine. It's also called a kshetra, or a place, like a field that one lives in where one can do one's activities. And Krishna says, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam, I am the Lord of that machine, actually. It's his machine. He's just loaning it to us, by the way, for a little while. And he's also giving us intelligence and direction from within. So when a soul within a bird's body flies, he doesn't need flying lessons. That's another thing I noticed. Little birds, they need a little push out of the nest. That's true. But once they get that, they have the intelligence how to fly. And they also know how to do other bird stuff. And it seems to be well understood how to be a bird once you become a bird. Because, as an example, there was a little bird who had set up a home, a little nest, in a potted plant just outside our door. And I was noticing that her nest was very much similar to other nests that we saw around. There was an eagle that lived in another section that we could see from the roof, who had built a much bigger nest. But the similar construction. And they went in, these birds, and found the little pieces they needed. The eagle needed bigger pieces, like branches and things like that. The little bird needed just smaller twigs, very small twigs, and very like pieces of grass. And she also put a lot of her own feathers in there. It was mixed in there, so it was quite comfortable. kind of like a Tempur-Pedic situation, maybe a Sleep Number, Sealy's mattresses or whatever it is. And I was thinking how they all have that intelligence. Every bird knows. And then I was marveling at how, and Nirkula was watching her more than me, but she kept reporting back to me about how now she's sitting on her eggs at first it was, and then there was one egg. And then, how she knows how to do all those things. So that's because Krishna is in the heart, along with the soul. So we're part of Krishna. It's like a spark is part of the fire. And Krishna is the all-knowing, what is called super soul or super spirit, who's everywhere, all at the same time, and is fully conscious, and who's also informing us how to fly in a bird's body, how to manipulate an elephant's body, and so forth. So Krishna is also known, he makes himself known in the Bhagavad Gita. This is helpful, that he's Suridam. So Suhrit means the friend in the heart. It's good to know he's friendly. He's our best friend, most intimate friend, and he's there with us in the heart. He's giving us information about how to manipulate various bodies and to manipulate the material energy. However, ultimately, watching the birds, I was thinking that, how many times can you fly and get that much out of it? It gets old fast. Plus, there's a rule in the material world: one living being is food for another. Jiva sajivanam means that to live here, you have to exploit others. And that's scary, because birds are prey for, or they're preyed upon by bigger birds, and others. There are other creatures that are looking to eat birds. Cats, it could be a cat, or I don't know who else eats them, but there's always somebody after us here in the material world. And as Krishna points out in the Gita as well, whatever material body we get goes through changes. And that's disconcerting as well, because everyone would like to pretty much come to the teenage years and just kind of stay there. At least physically, You would like to get a driver's license and all, but you'd still want to be like, hey, here I am. And when the body changes and so forth, it's disconcerting. So Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, "Dehino sminyata dehe komaranyavaramjara tate dehandhara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati." He gives this comparison. He says that just as we're moving from one body to the next, even in this lifetime, similarly, when we finish with this particular body, we go into another body, the time of death. But he says, and this is a good segue of what I'm going to talk about today, that dhiras tatra na muyati. Muyati means to be bewildered. And he says that if you become educated in the spiritual science, then you become steady despite all the changes of the body. And despite the various changes of the world, because a companion verse to what I just mentioned, which is dehino asmin, that while you're living in this body, the body's going to change. So get yourself educated so that you're not disturbed by that change. And then he says the outside world's going to change too. Matra sparshastu kondhaya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama paino nityas tams tikshash vabharita. I'd like to say that I prefer Fiji water. After a long flight, I drink Fiji. So, matra sparshastam konteya means that we're coming in contact through our senses with the external world. We touch it with the external world. And there's a kind of fascination with that, because we're living beings. We like interesting things because we're interesting ourselves. And when we touch the world, it kind of gives us a little titillation. Like, ooh, I like that. I like this. I like that. And so there's this sense of moving about the world. I'll try it as a bird. I'll try it as a fish. I'll try it. And there's lots of ways you can try. 8 million, I'll say the number again, 8,400,000 species of life that you can try it in. Every combination, permutation. It's more than Baskin-Robbins, 31 flavors. I don't know what they're up to now. But that's the idea. It's all the same thing. The whole material world, actually, not to ruin it for anybody, but it's all one thing. It all starts as one substance, and then it just coagulates because of the power of God into many different forms. And it looks like a lot of variety that you can enjoy, but basically, as taught by those who are spiritually advanced, and I'll give an example of Prahlad Maharaj. He says, Punak punas charvita charvananam. He says, not that you haven't done this before in another way. You've already tried it. It's just a combination. You got lemon, you got lime, you got lemon lime, you've got, it's the same things mixing together, different combinations, but the result is always the same. And what is that result? Just categorically, yehi samsparshacha bhoga, Dukkha yonaya evate, adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. So that a person who's become wise through practicing spiritual life understands that this interaction with the senses I have in this body and the external world, which means the sense objects, the things that I touch, that then it gives me some experience of it's a stimulation of the senses. He said through that touch, you don't actually get enjoyment, or the enjoyment that you get, it brings on a burden that causes you to be weighed down and ultimately to suffer. Suffer is a word which means to carry something extra that you don't need. And so then you ultimately suffer because you take on these impressions of the material world, and it's illusory because it's here today and gone tomorrow. So there's a solution to all this, and that is the science of self-realization, the science of God realization. And that's basically what Krishna consciousness is. And Krishna consciousness has a spectrum of knowledge available through which one can step into the process of self-realization, as we're talking about now, basic concepts, understanding the difference between us and our bodies and what the consequences are for interacting with the material world, and also how to spiritualize that process. We don't stop using the senses, but we use them with a higher intention, a higher purpose. And then we start through the senses to come directly in contact with God in his form of Hrishikesh. So Isha. Hrishik means the senses, and Isha means the master or the lord of the senses. This is a very long-winded preamble, so we're going to chant in just a minute. But I do want to say one thing that I've been thinking about, and then we'll chant, and then we can have some discussion about this verse that's banging around in my head. And if I can remember it, I'm going to pass it on to you now. Shall I? Yes. Okay, so the verse was spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad is an exceptional case of a Krishna conscious person. He was Krishna conscious in his childhood. So when he spoke this verse, he was 5 years old. And he was teaching his friends at school. And he said, Swarnam yata gravasa hemakara. So the first line, he says that he's referring to a geologist. And a geologist called hemakara, or somebody who knows where to find gold, or hema. Swarnam yata gravasu. So gravasu means a mass of rock in which there may be a vein of gold. And then he says, Kshetreshu yogaish tadabhigna apnuyat. And that means that a person who is a geologist and is trained to see rock formations where there might be gold. A high likelihood, because a person trained in geology can see these formations and say, there's a good chance gold would be here. It's not here, it's not there, it's probably here. So that means somebody who's trained well. So he says, Kshetreshu yogais. So in this case, yogais means there's a process through which a geologist can discern where there's gold within a mass of rocks. Kshetreshu means, as I said before, a field. And so in any field or area of the earth, a person who's trained in knowledge can look and see, oh yeah, gold, look here, dig here, or you can pan for it also in this area. It's probably running down from in the streams, and you'll find it because it's probably up there. Kshetreshu yogais tadabhigna apnuyat. So abhigna means somebody who's trained in knowledge, and apnuyat means then it becomes very easy to understand that because the person's trained. So the second part of the verse, he says, Kshetreshu deheshu tatatma yogar. In the same way, a person who's trained in spiritual knowledge, then adhyatma vid brahmagatim labeta. That person is able to see beyond just the external bodies of humans or birds or any other kind of living creature, and see that there's a spiritual essence inside. And so say 7721. Thank you. 7721 for those of you who are keeping score at home. Adhyatma vid brahmagatim labeta. So in this way, if you train yourself to understand this, then you'll be able to attain the spiritual platform. You'll be able to rise above the bodily conception of life, which is, by the way, and this is important, note this, it's the source of all misery. Did you ever wonder what the source of all misery is? Okay, 5 people wondered, everyone else? Yeah, it's the bodily conception of life. The conception is that I am this body, and don't feel bad if you've ever indulged in that and thought, oh, I'm my body, because everyone does it. It's pretty much the default mode here in this world until one gets trained in spiritual knowledge. Then one can adhyatma. So this word, you see it in adhyatma vid. So vid means somebody who knows something, a vid. It comes from vidya. So if you're adhyatma vid, it means you're expert in seeing the difference between matter and spirit. And so, brahmagatim labeta, what do you get from that? You attain the spiritual platform from this training. So it's extremely important just to take training in spiritual life. It doesn't happen automatically, but if you train by reading the Bhagavad Gita and by practicing spiritual life, and that's what we'll talk about after we chant a little bit. So one of the main processes that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught for self-realization and coming to the spiritual mind, coming into an awareness that I'm not my body, I'm actually a spiritual soul, and I'm connected with Krishna, is by chanting the names of Krishna. So the mantra goes like this. I'll say, please repeat. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this, we do a call and response. I'll sing the mantra, and then you can repeat as a chorus, and then we'll go back and forth, and just listen to the transcendental vibration of the mantra, okay? And we'll start just by clapping hands, because it's something you can do anywhere. You can get together a circle of people in the park or in your home or in your office. That'd be nice. Tuesday when you go back. So you got a program for you all. Everyone get in a circle before we start our work. They should do that. Tell them I recommended it, okay? Before we start our boring work today, let's sit in a circle and we'll clap hands and we'll chant this beautiful mantra. You can do it at college too. They won't mind. Okay, so first we'll sing a couple of prayers that honor the founder Acharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whom I already mentioned, right? So that's the entryway into chanting the mantra. In spiritual life, we always honor those who gave us the process. So we'll say this together. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pascha. Now before you move to the next slide, oops. This picture of, that's our founder Acharya right there. He's, we call him Prabhupada or Srila Prabhupada. These are titles. Prabhupada is the title which, of great honor for somebody who's spiritually advanced. And you see in this picture, he's walking in San Francisco at Stowe Lake. And the meaning of the mantra is that I'm offering my respect to this great teacher and saying that Vishnu Padaya, so Pada means the feet, and Vishnu is another name for Krishna. Vishnu and Krishna are interchangeable. Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale. So Krishna Preshtaya means somebody who's dear to Krishna. And Bhutale means in this world. So somebody who's teaching about Krishna to others. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, if someone teaches this message of Bhagavad Gita to others, that person becomes very dear to me. In fact, he says emphatically, never will there be one more dear to me than the person who does this. So this is expressed in this mantra because Prabhupada had left India on a boat, and by the way, we visited there. Our first yatra, next time we're going to do this, it's Calcutta. I had a major complaint about going to Calcutta. Shall I express it? It was too nice. And one of the places we went was the dock from which Prabhupada got on the boat called the Jaladuta. It was not a luxury liner. It was a cargo ship, and he just happened to get passage in one of the rooms there where, a worker or somebody else would stay to come across the ocean because he was fulfilling the desire of his spiritual teacher, who said, go spread this in the Western countries. And so we went there to that place. There's a bridge that goes over the river Ganges. And actually the dock, the place where Prabhupada got on the boat, which was called Jaladuta, the water messenger. That's what that word means. And the place where he got on the boat is on the Ganges. So he got on the Ganges, and then the boat would go out into the ocean from the Ganges. So we got there on a bridge where you could see the dock where he got on, and this time we all got out of the buses. We had 2 big buses, and we stood on that bridge, and all along the bridge we had a kirtan. And then all the traffic going the other way saw us, and they all started stopping. And then lots of people got on the other side of the bridge and were watching. So then we migrated across traffic very dangerously and went to the other side. And we just happened to bring about 5,000 extra books with us to distribute. And it was quite an appropriate scene, I must say. The backdrop is where Prabhupada got on the Jaladuta to bring the message of Krishna consciousness, of the Gita and so forth, to the whole world. And now, full circle, he had gone. All these people came back to the place where he started from and were distributing the books that he intended to distribute. Now that's what I call appropriate. So, pardon? Haribol. So this prayer is very heartfelt. It means that we're honoring this great teacher who's very dear to Krishna. Just as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if you teach the Bhagavad Gita to others, you're very dear to me. What to speak of someone who taught it, and now it's gone out, the Bhagavad Gita, in more than 100 languages around the world because of Prabhupada's influence. So that's how the first line goes. And the second one starts, of course, Srimate Bhaktivedanta, that's his name. Iti namine. Namine and name are the same in English and Sanskrit. So this is his name. So then it says namaste. Does anybody know namaste? Do namaste. Namaste. Come on. Namaste. Yeah, namaste. Saraswati Devi. So he's the student of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So he's naming his line that he comes in. He's the student of Saraswati Devi. And Gauravani means, so Gaura means Lord Chaitanya. And Vani means the words. And Pracharine means to teach something, to speak about it, is Vani. Gauravani, or the words that Lord Chaitanya spoke, Pracharine, this is what he's teaching to the world. And where is he teaching it, and what kind of teachings does he have? First of all, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deshatarne. He's dispelling a certain misconception or several misconceptions about God, which are that ultimately there is no God, or there is a God, but, you know, it's not a big deal because ultimately you're God and you just forgot somehow. Or that the ultimate goal of spiritual practice is to become nothing. How do you like that one? It always bugged me when I was a kid and my brother told me. I said, what happens when you die? And he goes, you become nothing. And I couldn't figure out how one would become nothing. Well, we're always something. That's good news of the Bhagavad Gita, right? You always exist, always have existed, always will exist. And what state we exist in, that's the point. So oftentimes people try to erase their existence because it seems hopeless. Doesn't it sometimes? Or am I the only one? Like every day almost? Okay, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Paschatya Deshatarne. So Desha means a place. And so where did he go? He went to the places where people are really into Nirvishesha, which means like there is nothing, man. And Shunyavadi, we're all nothing, man. And Paschatya Deshatarne means the places where people are really far away from the spiritual vibration. So that's where he went. So then the next verse, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And we say it together. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura. Okay, this is advanced spiritual science right here in this mantra. It's a very important and powerful mantra. If you can memorize this, then it gives you really good access to the process of chanting the Maha Mantra, which we're about to do. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I mentioned before, is the incarnation of Krishna for this age. He comes to teach how to practice spiritual life. So Krishna's always trying to make sure that we have the access to him in the easiest possible way. And in this particular age we're in now, which is the machine age, it's also called the age of quarrel. You know, first of all, there's no quiet place on the planet. Did you know that? When the pandemic started, there was a documentary film called the Year the World Changed. And the animals really notice it because we're really wigging them out, us humans. There's a way that we're always making noise somewhere. And that it disturbs their whole pattern of life. And when everyone calmed down for about a year and a half and just stayed home, it was a boon for all the animals. The whales, the little babies, they could hear their mother. They could talk back and forth. The cheetahs, you know, when they kill an animal, they have to call their babies for dinner. And they make this little sound. But with all the tourists there, like, hey, look at that tiger. You know, they can't hear anything. And the babies can't hear, so the population goes down. The penguins, All of them, naturally, some of them came back into town when everyone left to their natural ancestral homes. The birds and the penguins, and all over the world this happened. Humans are so noisy for no good reason, actually. Pounding and, say, go build a house, a little bigger house. Huh? Drilling, pounding, all kinds of talking, aircraft. The boats that go in the water, they make loud noise. And we were just in Japan in one of the longest tunnels in the world. And I was just thinking, it's under the ocean. I was like, I wonder how that sounds to all the fish down there. Cars going through all day long. Anyway, how did I get there? We don't like it. So it's the age. So Krishna comes in every age to teach us how to reposition ourselves. And so in the age we're in now, it's called Kali. Everyone say Kali. Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga. So if anything bad happens, you can just say, it's Kali Yuga. Try that. It's Kali Yuga, yeah. Okay, so in this Kali Yuga, in this bad age, when people have really bad ideas, they come up with really bad, stupid ideas. And then they carry them out for some reason and ruin it for everybody else. So in every age, there's a special process through which you can effectively practice Krishna consciousness, or the process of spiritual awakening in every age. So in this age, Krishna comes as this golden avatar named Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's a very, very amazing person. He's God, but he's a combination of, anyway, that's too detailed. He's God, and he comes to show the process of Krishna consciousness by coming as a devotee himself and saying, here's how you practice. And he expands himself into 4 other forms. And that's what's being mentioned in this mantra. It's one, but in variety. There's variety within the oneness of God. So he's a personality, but his personality is expressed in 5 forms. So that's called Pancha Tattva. Everyone say. So this is sometimes called the Pancha Tattva Mahamantra. Say that. We'll say it together. Jaya, by the way, Jaya in parentheses just means really means victory. So Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. So if you say those 2 mantras and then you chant Hare Krishna, it gives you really, it opens the door for you to enter deeply within the next mantra, which is the all-important mantra called the Maha Mantra. Shall we? Yes. I'll start it off, and I'll sing the Maha Mantra, and then, if you like, you can clap along if you can keep time. Otherwise, just listen. And just hear it, and then repeat the mantra. And don't speed up. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Keep it nice and slow. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Keep it slow now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sounds good. You sound good. Everyone's doing nice. Really good. Sounds great. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time, everybody. Last chant. Come on. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. That's it? That's all? One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. So this is called the Maha Mantra, and great self-realized people sing this song. Liberated souls sing it, and you can sing it out loud to yourself or with friends or your family, and you'll notice that the vibration is purifying. When you sing the names of God, and in this case, Hare means, oh, the energy of the Lord. It's like saying, oh my God, oh my God. Hare is in the vocative. People say it all the time, but they forget what they're saying, really. So Hare is a way of addressing the energy of the Lord. And then Krishna means the personality of God. So God has various features. The origin of all the features is the personality, just like we have energies around us, but we're the origin of those energies. And Krishna is described as having multifarious or unlimited energies that come from his personality, through which everything is maintained in this material world, as I mentioned before. But there's a spiritual world also. This material world is just a reflection of the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there are arts. There's many different kinds of arts and crafts. That's where arts and crafts come from in this world. Who here likes arts and crafts? Okay, everyone else, you can't go to the spiritual world. There's no C++. So there's music, there are arts, the art of dressing beautifully, there are arts of painting, and many other cultural exchanges in the spiritual world. So it's very personal there. There are different aspects of the spiritual world, unlimited aspects actually. So there's the personality of Krishna, and then there's his energies, and as I already mentioned, there's the localized aspect of Krishna within our hearts. That's Krishna, he's there, but he comes with us wherever we go, whatever body we're in. So we always have access to Krishna, he's always making himself available. And the process of devotional service, of bhakti yoga, gives us an instant way of remembering Krishna and connecting with Krishna. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who taught by example, said, just chant Hare Krishna, and also should read the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and eat prasadam. Prasadam means spiritual food. It really makes a big difference in our consciousness, what we eat, because we take on the consciousness of those who cook. So be careful who cooks for you. So that's why a lot of yogis and sages and stuff, they cook for themselves. And also, when you offer the food, before you eat it, you make it as a loving offering and you offer it to Krishna before you eat it, then it becomes prasadam, or grace, or mercy. So the food itself becomes filled with the same vibration as the Hare Krishna mantra. And then you'll notice the difference. It's as you only take prasadam, then your whole body becomes spiritualized by this. And what else? You can chant, you can eat prasadam, and you can do some service, devotional service. It's quite a relief to do work that's not for remuneration, at least not anything like a tit for tat. Like, I'm doing this, how many hours are you going to work? Okay, here's how much you get paid. That's not enough, give me more. Right? Say yes. Yes. Yeah, so, but not like that. It's just out of joy of serving, because out of sense of love. And that's easily accessible because we can remember how we're being so nicely taken care of by Krishna. We're at every minute we're being given abundant gifts, and if we develop a sense of gratitude, and we do some service to Krishna out of gratitude for him, then we'll also feel this very tight connection that I'm doing this. I'm cleaning the floor, or I'm making a garland, or I'm cooking something for Krishna, or I'm driving someone somewhere so they can teach Bhagavad Gita to somebody else. These are all different kinds of devotional service that anybody can do. And you'll find when you do those services, then you'll naturally feel enlivened. You'll feel happy that I'm doing this for Krishna. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness as was passed down to us through disciplic succession. And let's see if you have any questions or comments. Yes. Let's bring out the microphones and we'll pass them around.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, welcome back to ISV.
Thank you.
So we didn't have the dearth of spiritual liberation here, but I think everybody is looking forward for you to come back so that we can take it to a different level. So thank you for coming back. So I wanted to share one realization with respect to what you mentioned about how this spiritual knowledge is flowing in the parampara, right? And you also mentioned about bhakti With your permission, I'd like to quote these words from Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, I'm noticing that some devotees don't have a place to sit. So sorry to interrupt you, but let's move up 7.2 inches. Everybody? 7.2. There's an app on your phone, you can figure it out. And that way it'll make space in the back for our other guests who are now standing room only. Make sure you see anybody near you that needs a seat, just welcome them to sit in an open space near you. Okay, go ahead with your point.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So this is the words 9.2 in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is mentioning to Arjuna. It says, this is the Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Dharmam Susukam Kartum Avyamam. So he's mentioning several points about these words where he says this is the purest of the knowledge, this is the king of the knowledge. And one thing that you mentioned, like bhakti, right? You should perform with happiness. That's like, and the thing that we get out of it is everlasting, right? So I just wanted to make these points about the knowledge and the bhakti that you mentioned.
Thank you. That's a really appropriate and beautiful verse where Krishna says, and I'll just reiterate, perhaps a little slower, Raja means king, and Vidya means knowledge. So there's lots of different kinds of knowledge in the world, right? Say yes. Yes. Yeah, when you go to college, for instance, they give you a syllabus. Is it not a syllabus, but they give you a chart, a book that tells you all the classes that are available. Is that a syllabus? Huh? Catalog. It's a catalog. I remember when I used to get those and I'd go through them. It's very tantalizing, all the different, I'd like to take this, I'd like to take that, I'd like to take all these things, right? There's so many branches of knowledge in this world. Name a few. Okay, biology is something, there's many different aspects to biology. Very interesting looking at the biological world. What else? No IT, you can't say IT. What? History is very interesting. You can learn so much from history. It's fascinating. Just what's happened in the past, and also just noticing that people had very nuanced knowledge even many years ago before the industrial or technological revolution. That somehow or other they got by without a smartphone. Who knows how? But in some ways, I think, boy, the culture was more refined back then. And in a lot of ways, people are doing some of the same things they've always done, right? And if you study history, most of history is marked by wars. The 12 Years' War, World War I, World War II, what's the one here in California called the Bear Flag Revolution or something like that between America and Mexico, and so on and so on. So there's history. What else? Psychology. Yeah, psychology. Sometimes I notice people who are edging towards the spiritual. They want to understand a little more about the inner workings in themselves and others. They go into psychology. My father was a psychologist. I looked at a lot of his books. I never read any of them, but I did see that it was quite an absorbing profession. And what else is there? Mathematics is endlessly fascinating. Physics, we have some devotees here who have studied physics. You can spend 20 years looking at one little particle. You can smash it as hard as you can and see all the parts. They go like, wow, look at all those little parts. Let's get a little more funding and see if we can smash it harder next time. So there's all these different categories of knowledge. And then in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Raja Vidya. So again, Raja means king, and Vidya means knowledge. So he says, here's the king of all knowledge. So as the inimitable Chaitanya Charan likes to say, he says, science tells you how things, he tells you about, it's the study of matter. And Bhagavad Gita is the study of what matters. So, yeah. What matters is that we are not our bodies. We're spiritual souls, and that we have a relationship with the Supreme Soul. That's what really matters in the ultimate issue. That's what human life is meant for. So Raja Vidya, and then he says Raja Guyam. Interestingly, even as the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking it not just for Arjuna, but for everybody else. But he says it's secret. And one of the reasons it's secret is you have to be sincere to understand it. That's the only qualification. You just have to really want to know. If you want to use the Bhagavad Gita for your own purposes, you'll miss it. You can't enter into it. So in that sense, it's secret. Rajaguyam. Rajavidya Rajaguyam. Pavitram means that it's purifying. And how is it purifying? Just like with gold. When you get the gold out of the rock, then you have to purify it, and there's what's called a crucible. And you put the gold in fire. And when it melts, then any impurities that were there mixed with the gold get separated out. So pavitram means when you have a spiritual knowledge and you know the difference between matter and spirit, then you don't make the categorical mistake of thinking that it's all the same thing. It's not. There's a huge, huge difference between matter and spirit. They're opposites, actually. There's matter and antimatter. Antimatter is consciousness or spirit. You can't define it in material terms. And when I'm combined with matter and I think I'm part of the material world and I think I'm my body, then that's when the problems start. That's the origin of all the problems that I have. So pavitra means the knowledge purifies me and I'm able to see the difference. And I also understand the consequences of mixing with matter. Uttama means it's the ultimate. Pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam. So it means, pratyaksha means you can see it for yourself. Like, did you ever eat a gulab jamun? Everyone who doesn't know what a gulab jamun is, raise your hand. Don't be shamed or shy. You all know what a gulab jamun is? Seriously? Okay. When's the first time? Do you remember the first time you ever had one? Should be able to remember. It's like, whoa, what was that? Then no one has to come up to you and goes, sweet, right? You know, like, yeah, I know it's sweet. The gulab jamun, you take it, you have direct experience that this is explosively sweet. And so its spiritual life is like that also. Pratyaksha means you feel it for yourself. No one has to fly in and give you a certificate and say, now you're becoming advanced. You know directly. Pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam, and it's the essence of all what everyone's looking for in some kind of a spiritual or religious practice. It goes to the essence of it all. So it becomes the dharma, the thing that resonates with our soul. Susukha means that it's happily performed. Not that you do it happily, although that's a good idea. It's kind of being enthusiastic even if you don't feel like it. But what it really means is when you practice Krishna consciousness, you're naturally happy because that's our nature. And our nature becomes apparent when we practice Krishna consciousness. Susukham kartam avyayam. And it's everlasting. It's not like you can only do it on Sundays. You can do it constantly. It never ends. And it keeps getting better. Okay, questions? That's hard. That's a challenge. Yes. We'll give you a microphone. Here you go. Tech support on aisle 1. We need a trade-in.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Perfect. Thank you. I had a question. So Krishna means all attractive, and they said that basically all Krishna's names are different qualities of Krishna. And I've heard that when you start your basically Krishna conscious path or bhakti path, we should always remember 2 qualities of Krishna, which is first that Krishna is always just and fair, and second one that he's merciful. And I think I don't have hard times maybe accepting the first, but it's very hard for me to think of Krishna as merciful. especially when you mentioned birds, and you said that basically animals have patterns of behavior, but humans don't. And that's why we are, in a sense, blessed to be humans, because we have free will. But at the same time, I feel like human life could be also a big curse. So how then we can think that Krishna is merciful? Because there are so many people that are miserable and very sad, and just so many bad things happen to them because of their own selves.
Well, you ready for some breaking news? Breaking news. Being miserable is not bad. Breaking news. It's not bad. It's purifying. When we're miserable, we come to our senses. We come to reality. When there's a sense that I'm in a really dangerous position, or when I really feel frustrated, these are all different kinds of misery, then there's a reckoning that I come to of realizing actually that I need to find something better, higher. What I'm doing isn't working. When we get a kind of feedback from our body, you might notice that the body is so perfectly tuned that if you scrape yourself, maybe you don't even notice it for a while, like a couple hours, and then you're like, something hurts. And then you'll look and you'll say, oh, I scraped myself as I was going by that wall. And then you might put some ointment on it or something like that, because the body tells you, it's like, here it is, you hurt yourself. And the kinds of mental situations, the ways that we feel pain mentally also, and situations, the world is an indicator that I'm not aligned properly. So in these cases, suffering or frustration becomes the door to enlightenment when we also have the practice of Krishna consciousness, because then we understand that I can't be happy through interaction with the material world. So Krishna is very kind, actually. He allows us to be in situations where we feel uncomfortable, but then he gives us the solution. Like, here's how to get comfortable. Or to be in a situation where you're above the misery that goes along with the changes of the material world, so forth. And if you stick around long enough and practice Krishna consciousness, you start to see how everything comes around. Whatever kinds of ways in which we feel uncomfortable or miserable and so forth, not even in Krishna consciousness. If you just want to be a wise human being, just stick around for a while and try not to mess things up too much by doing stupid stuff. If you don't do stupid, crazy things that gets yourself more and more implicated in matter, and you just live kind of a life where you try to do as least harm as possible to other people, then as you get older, you start seeing how there's a kind of a justice in the universe. I'll give you an example. I was just talking about it recently with Steve Jobs. He gave a commencement speech at Stanford, and he talked about the most important junctures in his life. And the first one was getting kicked out of his own company. Do you ever start something? Do you start it like a Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts? Your mother was the den mother or something, and then there was some politics. You got kicked out of your own den. Or you got a sports team and you got kicked off, or you got kicked out of your lab group or something like that. Hey, I started it. You're like, too bad, you're out. He started a big company. It became one of the most productive companies in the world, and then he brought in somebody who he thought could help bring it to the next level and say, yeah, we'll bring it to the next level. Get out of here. And as soon as he left, then he said, oh, well, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. How could anything be worse? That's suffering. It's like, oh, I lost it. My identity's gone. I look foolish. I'm embarrassed. I'm kicked out. And then he came to reality. He thought, why did I start it in the first place? And then he thought, let me just go back to why I did it in the first place. I just wanted to be a little creative. He wanted to create some different ways to look at fonts, electronically. And then he did more. He had a couple more instances that I won't go into, but they were all disasters. And they were all suffering, but they brought him to this sobriety and sense of purpose. And we have that in Krishna consciousness. We're advised, actually, that everything that happens to us is happening for a purpose, and it's a very benevolent purpose that Krishna has for us. It's to bring us into full consciousness of Him. There's no problem there in Krishna consciousness. The problems will always be there in the material world, but we are not subjected to the misery of those problems when we're taking shelter of Krishna. Let's see if we have one more question. Kennedy's here. Very good. Go ahead, Kennedy.
Hare Krishna and welcome back.
Thank you.
I love her question so much. I'm so glad she asked it. And it reminds me that the Bhagavad Gita, which is the word of God, is spoken from him to his best friend at the time. And that love that he speaks to us with continues every time we read it and we chant it and we say it back to each other. And that to me is one of the greatest examples of the promise of his love, and that we will rise above the suffering and the happiness, because truly there is something far greater.
Now, Kennedy, I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. You're a really good teacher. The
Thank you.
The way you speak is very articulate and powerful. My humble opinion is that you should be teaching Bhagavad Gita here, there, and everywhere. You probably already are, but keep it up. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, so now the real fireworks happen. Dancing is a part of the spiritual world. So if you don't like to dance, you could stay here in the material world and just sulk. Just sit there in the corner of your room. Like, I don't want to do anything. So spiritual world means dancing. And so dancing is an expression of joy in the spiritual world. The movement, we have arms, you can use your arms in different ways. And it's meant to be spiritual dancing for the pleasure of Krishna. In the material world, people dance, but sometimes, they're bodily conscious. They're thinking, how do I look, or whatever, every culture has some kind of dance. And when the purpose of the dance, like in Indonesia, they have all kinds of dance, the gamelan, and they're dancing to the songs of the Ramayana. In Jagannath Puri, they have Odissi dancing. It's dancing meant specifically to please God. And so this is the purpose of dancing. So when we dance here, it's actually, you don't have to be trained. It's just spontaneous. If you hear that you're thinking, I'm here, I'm doing this. I'm right here in the flow of Krishna's name, and I'm doing the right thing, and I just feel unburdened and happy. And if you don't feel unburdened, then put your hands in the air. It's like if you dance and all your keys come out, credit cards, they go everywhere. We'll give them back, but just let them all go. Let them all come flying out. That's like all the cares that we carry around in our hearts. Like, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? Just chant Hare Krishna. Let Krishna take care of it. He can handle the whole universe. We can't. So it's joyful. You can sway. And if you don't feel like dancing externally, you can dance within your heart and just feel the flow of it. And we'll try to sing the Maha Mantra in such a way that you feel like dancing. Okay? Thanks, everybody, for such a warm welcome. We've been missing you all so much, and we really didn't try to stay that long. It just worked out that way. We tried every which way we could before we, booked everything to come back like we usually do earlier. But so if you have a complaint about it, you can talk to Krishna, because he made us do this. So thank you very much. We'll all stand up. We'll move all the seats to the back, and then we'll open up the dance floor. And we'll commence in about 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Haribol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Meg Rag, okay? Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Sri Mata Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Devi Shunyavadi Paschata Deshikaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Garu Nityananda Radha Diva Sari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Radha Diva Sari One more time, everybody please. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Paramahamsa Parivraj Kacharya Shtotarishta Shishi Mara Bhai Charanara Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivraj Kacharya Shtotarishta Shishi Mara Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopalinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadipam Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory is to the Son of devotees. All glory is to the Son of devotees. All glory is to the Son of devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.
भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की नमस्ते नरसिंहाय भवभीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की वत्समणि प्रहलाद महाराज की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी।
Hare Krishna devotees, if you can hear me, just wanted to make a request. Raksha Mataji, who serves a lot in the kitchen, her mother is going through a surgery, and she requested all the devotees to please pray for her recovery and well-being. Hari Bol. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to ISKCON Silicon Valley, and the turnout is so beautiful. It's almost like a festival day today. And it is a festival because we're welcoming back His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu and Nirkala Mataji after an extended stay in Mayapur and all the dhams, and we're so glad to have you back. We thank Prabhu for his especially nectarian class, as well as the arti that he led today. Jai Kanai Prabhu, thank you for leading a beautiful Nrsingadev prayers. Since we have such a huge turnout today, I'm sure there's a couple new faces to ISV, and we want to see with a quick show of hands, is this your first time here at ISV? Oh, wow. Wonderful. Welcome. If you need anything at all, there's a team of welcomers here to help you with any questions or make your stay here more comfortable. Thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again. For our programs here, we also have a broad audience online, so we'd like to thank their presence as well as the broadcast team who brings us this experience. For these Sunday Feast programs, we have sponsors who come forward to ensure that we have a wonderful feast to feed all the devotees, and we'd like to take a quick minute to acknowledge them. When I do call your name, please feel free to come up. I know it's a bit crowded, but we would like to hear from you about the occasion and a few words you'd like to share with everybody here. So, the first we have is Vaishali Desai. And she is sponsoring to serve the devotees and seek blessings for her children, Janavi and Vidit. So, Vaishali Mataji, are you here? Well, that's all right. We'll still thank her for her sponsorship. Second sponsor we have today is Parth Bhagat Prabhu. And he's sponsoring in the memory of his grandfather. Are you here, Prabhu? Oh.
Hare Krishna, everyone. My grandfather, he passed away earlier this week, and one of the services very close to his heart was prasadam distribution. So I felt inspired to do this, and if I could just humbly request everyone to help his soul on its journey, give some encouragement wherever it may be, and just loudly chant Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, and we'll definitely be honoring the feast in his memory. Next, we have Tapo Mai and Tarini, who are sponsoring on the occasion of their marriage anniversary. Are you present today, Tapo and Mai or Tarini? No? We still thank you for sponsoring the feast. Hare Krishna. We had a sponsor from last week who was unable to be present. Please give me a second to gather his name. Bhargavi. Her parents were sponsoring for the occasion of her birthday. Mohan Rao Keta Prabhu was sponsoring for her. Are you here by any chance? All right, thank you. Now we'll have a couple announcements and about the prasadam distribution, because as you know, we've changed the setup a bit to make the lines go faster, and we have Balmukunda Prabhu, who's the expert behind it, who's going to share some more.
Hare Krishna. How many of you feel that you are getting prasadam faster these days? Please say Hari Bol. Thank you. So as many of you know, and those who are new, we have two different lines. One is pre-made plates, where you get ready-made plates, and another is a custom line. And our goal is that we give you prasadam plate in 7 minutes, otherwise your money back. So our goal is to serve you better. And one more request for the parents, to make sure that kids don't waste prasadam. They take the quantity which they need, which is available in custom line. Thank you so much. And just to conclude, the pre-made plates are on the left side, and custom line is on the right side. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam is cooked by Shama Bhakta Prabhu, Dharini Mataji, Gopi Priya Mataji, Hitesh Prabhu, Divyanand Prabhu, Sri Ram Prabhu, Shalini Mataji, Santosh Prabhu, and Sunirmala Sita Devi Mataji.
So prasadam will be served outside in 2 lines. The left line is pre-made, and the right line is? The left line is? The right line is? Okay, amazing. You can honor prasadam inside the temple room or outside, but we do request that by 7 p.m. This temple room is cleaned. So please be cognizant of that, and if you would like to help with the cleaning efforts, please stay behind either for the temple room or for the kitchen. Now after prasadam prayers, prasadam will be served outside. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Take a look at the English translation. How many of you here speak Bengali? Ami Bengali boli. So, just a little bit about these prayers. These are written by one of the great acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, named Bhaktivedanta Thakur. And we can say these together. And gain is just slightly too much. Shall we say it together? Yes. Let's read it. We'll have a little background music though. O Lord, this material body is a place of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths to death. Somehow we have fallen into this ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all the senses the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to control the tongue in this world. But you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us and have given us such nice prasad just to control the tongue. Now we may take this prasad to our full satisfaction and glorify you, Radha and Krishna, and in love call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. Brothers, one day at Sri Advaita's house in Shantipur, the 2 lords, Chaitanya and Nityananda, were seated for lunch. Lord Chaitanya tasted the green leafy preparation and addressed the assembly of his devotees. This shak is so delicious. Lord Krishna has definitely tasted it. At the taste of shak like this, love of Krishna arises in the heart. In such love, you should taste these remedies, giving up all materialistic conceptions and taking the Lord's prasad. All of you just chant. And now we'll sing it in Bengali because it's really beautiful. Shari Radhe Jaja Jogendriya Kahe Kaha Jive Tere Vishaya Sagore Samate Jivayasi Logo Moisu Purnati Sake Jita Sati Tatsansare Krishna Varodoyamo Tori Vare Jivaja Swaprasad Najiloba Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunatao Premedako Shri Chaitanya Ika Vaire Ekadina Shanti Pure Prabhu Advaita Radhare Dui Prabhu Bhojane Goshilo Shakori Asagana Gauri Esha Krishna Asagilo Hena Sasya Jai Preme Jada Bhukti Parihari Prasada Bhojana Kori Hari Hari Bolo Sarvaja Hari Hari Bolo Sarvaja Mahapachari Govinda Namutani Vaisesika Sapapunya Vatangaja Satarabhaya Ketrapare Karma Jasana Adya Sukadaya Satyana Ketrapoyatu Vipaya Satyana Yoga Satyana Bhaktivankara Satyana Usita Robino Datat Navamaya Jainahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasad Ki Gaur Premanande Nitai Gauda Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gauda Hari Bol Please come take prasadam, Hari Bol. Premier or custom, whichever you choose.